Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard of the term vibe coding lately. And at first, I didn't know what it was about, but I'm on Twitter or X, and I started seeing all these posts of people building these pretty crazy games with AI, using like Cursor and Claude, and building these games with three.js. So this person here built a little first-person shooter with multiplayer. This guy's working on a platformer. Let's see what else we have here. We have a multi-camera city block simulation, complete with pedestrians and traffic. I'm not sure how well the traffic actually works, but it looks like there's some like start and stop traffic light mechanics. And if you followed my SimCity tutorials, you know how much work is involved in creating something like that. So I thought I would ride the hype train while it's still going and try my hand at vibe coding and see what we can come up with. So I had some ideas of, maybe taking one of the video series I worked on, so SimCity or Minecraft or the 3D RPG, or I could do something that kind of goes back to my childhood. I thought we could do like a Rogue Squadron flight simulator. But since the series I'm working on lately is the isometric RPG, and that's a pretty hard thing to build, I think. So I'm going to try and vibe code that. I'll try to code as much as I can with AI without manual intervention, without manual coding. And we're just going to see how far we can get in the next 45 minutes because I need to go eat dinner. So yeah, I have my browser window open on the right here. I have I have Cursor open on the left. I'm using Claude 3.7 Sonnet. Make this a little bit bigger. Might be a little bit awkward with these side by side. I'm trying to make the text big enough so you can read it on a phone. But yeah, let's go ahead. So I have my empty directory here. I'm starting with absolutely nothing. So let's get going. So I think first off, I'm going to build out a template, just like a simple three.js project, get all the build systems and everything up and running. So can you create, if I can type here, can you create a three.js template in this directory for me? I want to use Vite as a build tool, and I just want to use JavaScript. Figure I'll just use JavaScript. It'll make it a little easier on the AI, I think, than using TypeScript. So let's send that off. I may fast forward through some of the AI generation part of this, just so the video doesn't drag on in that regard. But all right, let's pull this over a bit and make this a little bigger. So created the package JSON. 3.js version is out of date here. So let's see, I'll accept that. I think 173 is the latest version. So let's go with that. Index.html file. Looks good to me. And then let's see. Let's go in YOLO mode. Let's do it. Create our source directory. Now it's generating our JavaScript file. And I'm assuming this is just going to be a carbon copy of the 3.js starter template. Looks like it added some orbit controls in though, and it's got the old spinning cube, of course. So that file looks good. Now, one issue with vibe coding is if you don't actually know what you're doing and you hit a roadblock, I think you're just kind of stuck because 3.js is a pretty particular library to work with, especially when you get into the 3D math side of things. So yeah, if you can see, most of these games, they don't look very good. They look pretty bad, which is fine, if you're just making like a simple game. And that's, I think, one thing they're still working on with AI is generating the 3D assets that you need. That's usually the biggest hang up with game developers, especially coders, is they can write the code, but making the assets is pretty difficult unless you're artistic, and they're quite expensive to get people to make them. All right, even got a README file. Okay. Didn't really need that, but that's fine. Get ignore file, sure. And do npm install. And then npm run dev. All right, so there is our green spinning cube, and we also have orbit controls. It's getting a little hard to read, so I'm going to reduce the font size a little bit. So let's go in here. I'm going to turn off the cube rotation. So we have our orbit controls here. So yeah, we're building a 3D RPG. So I'm going to just brainstorm with the AI for a bit here. I want to build a 3D RPG. Which components will I need to build this? So maybe get the AI thinking about what it's going to need before it just goes and bashes something out. So as you can see, a actual game has quite a few components in it. We have the world level system, the character system, combat, inventory, quest and dialogue, UI elements, game state management, audio, physics, and of course optimization. It's even creating a little markdown file for me. So I don't need that. So yeah, let's start by building out the world. So I'm going to change this to ask mode. Honestly, I'm not sure what the difference is between these. I've had better luck with ask mode. So let's see here. I want to build an infinite world generator. This is going to be a 3D RPG game. So I want some trees, some rocks, some bushes, and I want the terrain to have some hills and some water as well. And I'm going to do everything in a low poly art style. Since this AI can't go and pull like high fidelity 3D models, we'll just make the most of what we have with what's built in. So make this in a low poly art style. So it's adding in some simplex noise. This feels a bit weird. It almost feels like it's pulling stuff from my Minecraft game. Which maybe it scanned that, or maybe because I've used it on that before. I guess some of that code can be generalized. So adding a tree, it's using a cylinder and a cone. It's dodecahedron for rocks, dodecahedron for bushes. Honestly, I think this is pulling from my isometric RPG code. It looks really similar. Which is a little weird, but I'll take it. It's also doing a UI overlay. Also, I've noticed how much faster this has gotten since I first started using AI, which is absolutely crazy. All right, let's just apply all of that. And we do need to do npm install. Looks like it reverted my three.js version. So I don't see anything. Make sure I accept this too. So already appears to be broken. This looks like the simplex noise import is not working. Maybe it's just this. Or am I even running it? It is running, okay. So yeah, let's just grab this error, true vibe coding style. Not even gonna think, I'm just gonna copy paste. Okay, I don't want it to regenerate the whole file. I think I need to change how I'm doing this. I need to add the main file as context, give it this error. I think that looks better. All right, apply all of that. There we go. This is getting really squashed here. Sorry about that. So it's generating all the terrain right on top of each other, which is not right, of course. So all of the terrain is being generated on top of each other. All the terrain chunks are generated on top of each other. So it says it sees the issue. Now setting the position of the entire chunk group to the world offset coordinates. That makes sense. It's probably just setting the position local space or something. Using world coordinates for the noise function. That's correct. All right, that looks much better. So this is getting too cramped here. So I'm going to move this browser window to a different screen. Now we got our world. That looks pretty good. It's got low poly terrain, and it looks to be shaded. It's got different colors for the different heights of terrain. So when you get close to the water, it's more brownish. When you get further up, then you have more mountainous. Let's see, the assets are placed at the correct heights, which is good. Okay. Now let's add a character model in. And before we do this, so I think the context sizes will get too big if everything's in one file. So I'm going to ask it to refactor this code into separate files. Choose an optimal file system for a 3D RPG game. That looks a bit intense. Noise generator, math utils. I'm going to let it do this because this actually looks pretty good to me. It's a little more hardcore organization than I would probably do, but it does make sense. So it's creating a base entity class. Good. It's extending that. And now created a player class. Didn't we even have a player before? Looks like we did, but our camera was not attached to the player, so maybe we just didn't recognize that. We got our tree, we got our rock, we got our bush, we got the water, we got the terrain, the chunk. So let's see, is the terrain made of chunks? Terrain geometry, new plane geometry. I think the terrain is just used to create the terrain mesh. And then we add the decorations, and then we have the whole world, which has the chunks in it. Sorry if you hear any banging in the background. My son's going nuts. And then we have the whole game engine here, which is just the constructor, builds everything, and then our update loop, and then our main entry point. All right, that is a whole lot of code. 1,300 lines, wow. I'm just imagining some server farm somewhere just burning through compute cycles. Like, I pay 20 bucks a month for Cursor, and it probably costs $20 just to run this one query. I don't know how they're making any money on this. But that's not my problem right now. I imagine that as AI gets more widespread, they're going to start, just accept all these, they're going to start charging quite a bit more. Because as a developer, I would easily pay at least $100 a month for a tool like this. It saves me that much time when I'm doing my consulting work. All right. 3 is not defined in our time class. Just import that myself. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to write any code. I'm going to tell myself I wouldn't. Missing three.js import in time. So I do command enter, then it scans the whole code base, so I don't have to add individual files to the context. Then I'm going to apply that. All right, there we go. So our camera is really wonky. I think we need to get rid of the orbit controls. So let's replace the orbit controls with a first-person camera attached to the player's head. So you attach the player. Don't want to model the head separately. So it's creating a, we already have a camera file. It's perspective camera, setting up mouse controls. So it's using the pointer lock API, which is good. This looks similar to a first-person camera I've built before. And then on our player, let's see, when we do an update, we're updating the camera position. And then we're updating the engine. Accept all. Right, it is backwards. So I'm going, S goes forward, W goes backwards. Let's see, forward and backward are swapped. The player is too fast. Also make the trees bigger. If I have a lot of small changes, you know, this is just changing a constant, that's changing a constant, so is this. I can package them into the same query, but if I'm doing anything complex, I try not to confuse it. All right. So when I click, it locks the pointer. You can see that little thing at the top of the screen. Let's do this and reload. So I can't jump. We do have terrain. Can go in the water. might be some clipping issues with the ocean. Or no, it looks like the ocean is static. So they just used a giant plane for the ocean. So there's a problem. Okay, so we need to fix the ocean. And let's see what else. The terrain scale is off. Let's see, the ocean should be chunked as well, and the terrain scale feels too small. I feel like a giant. So the water is now being chunked. Looks like it modified some properties in the world size. Let's see, where were these in the game config? Max height is now 15. There's the chunks there. Update the world class to manage the water chunks. Train to feel more appropriately scaled. I'm not sure what it's changed in there. Let's go to... It's updating trees, updating rocks, bushes. So I made the trees bigger and the rocks and bushes bigger. That's not what I wanted though. So I'm gonna accept all those. So yeah, I did not want the decorations to get bigger. They looked good. I want the actual scale of the terrain to be more spread out and more grandiose. So it looks like this world size parameter might be the thing that needs to get set. Also the noise generator. Okay, so it's hard coded those values in there. See, where's that? Noise generator was 0.01, now it's 0.005. Is that just the heights? Yeah, I'm not sure. So hopefully it reverted the changes to the trees and stuff. Okay, that feels better. That feels like more realistic scale. We don't have any collision detection with the props. But now if I keep walking and walking, looks like the water is now being regenerated. Or sorry, the water is being chunked. So I'm just looking at my time right now. It's 23 minutes in. So I'm going to give this about 20 more minutes. How can we make this cool? So yeah, let's make it more RPG-like. Add in some NPC enemies that are roaming the land. I want to display a health bar above their head that displays their current hit points and total number of hit points. Let's see here. Current hit points, total number of hit points. You can construct them using basic geometric primitives like boxes, cylinders, etc. Let's see, basic three.js, geometric primitives. What else? Let's start with that. All right, so it looks like I created a new NPC class that has health, max health, speed. Let's see, create. So it looks like it's going to subclass this, creating a health bar using a plane. And update the health bar, take damage, heal. So the specific enemy type it created is a goblin. So it's creating the body from a cylinder, head is a sphere, even creating eyes and pupils. Wow. Arms are cylinders, legs are cylinders. Doesn't look like there's any animation. Also a skeleton. That's pretty cool. And it's creating an NPC manager. So it's doing the spawning, the updating, adding that to our world class. So every time we update the world, then we're updating our NPC manager. And then we're updating the engine. All right, apply all of that, accept all. Camera is not defined. Let's see, skeleton update position. That's in the NPC file line 119. Let me close some of these files. So I don't even know where these files live. NPC line 119. Look at camera.position. So let's just copy and paste the error. So you're right, there's an error in the NPC class when we're trying to use camera before it's passed to the method. Don't try to make the health bar face the camera. We'll handle this in the update method instead. Okay. All right, I see our little enemies here. He's even got a sword. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Look at this guy. Looks like a Gumby who's just freaking out. Man, I don't even know where to go from this. I don't even know if I want to change this. This is too good. So let's see. Let's fix the enemies. The NPCs are not sitting on top of the terrain. Their legs are inside the terrain. So it's doing a little height offset here. And specific NPC types may need to adjust height offset based on the dimensions. Sure. Accept files. All right, they're a little higher up now, but that's okay. All right, so now we need some combat. Add in a combat system so I can attack these enemy NPCs. I want to have a sword. Let's see, I want my player to have a sword. When I click the mouse button, it should swing the sword. If the enemy is close enough, I want that enemy to take damage. If the enemy's hit points go to 0, then that enemy should disappear. So this will require some type of collision detection between the sword and the enemy. So probably just do some distance-based thing. If the enemy's a certain distance away from the player, then we'll count that as an attack. So it looks like it has an attack cooldown, which is good. What's the attack cooldown? It's currently 0. Duration is 0.5 seconds. Damage is 20. Range is 2.5. So there's the sword. Create sword. Update attack. So it looks like it has a whole animation thing it's coded in here. Man, this is wild. I'm just wondering whose code I'm stealing, because you know this is based off of something that's been written before. Check hits, so it loops over each NPC. So if you have a lot of NPCs, this could be pretty slow. Typically, you'd probably want to do something more with like a quad tree where you break your world up into different chunks. Maybe the NPCs are associated with different chunks. I doubt it. That way you're not checking every NPC in the whole world. You're only checking NPCs that are near you. So we get the distance to the NPC if it's an attack range. Then we get the direction. Calculate the dot product. So it's basically saying, you know, if we're facing the enemy and it's within a 60-degree cone that we're attacking it, then that NPC takes damage. And this must return whether or not that was killed. So you create hit effect. I think we can do something here. We can make a cool animation, like a particle effect. Updating our input class, updating the NPC class. Play hit animation. Ah, cool. So it's changing the colors for 100 milliseconds. It makes it flash red. Then if it dies, so the actual removal is handled by NPC manager. Death animation, sink into the ground. Good enough. Fades out. Yeah, it all looks good to me. I don't see my sword. See if I can get close enough to this guy. Also, you can see the health bars are being rendered behind things sometimes. So I'm clicking at the guy, but nothing's really happening. So something must not be wired up. When I click, I don't see my sword swinging. Let's start there. See, sword mount to attach the camera view, animation, timing. So let's see. Doesn't look like it really knows the issue. And I lost my apply all button, unfortunately. All right, NPC. No changes made there. Let's go to the world file and apply those changes. No changes made. And then the player update method in world. It didn't look like it did anything. See, when I'm clicking, attack key detected, I'm not seeing any console output when I click the mouse button. So it's double checking the event listeners. See, it's not even updating the right files anymore. It's just thinking all of this is happening in the world.js file. Let me just try, maybe the context got screwed up. I'm just going to say make sure you are applying changes to the right files. It looks like you're trying to apply everything to world.js. Yeah, this is may have hit the end of the line here. See, so this is in the player class. So that's in the player class. So did make a bunch of changes here. Oh, looks like these never got applied. Ah. So when it was creating all the attack code, it looks like it never actually went and added any of that. Interesting. Now I'm really not sure about what exactly it's doing. So I have to go into each individual file here. Yeah, still not getting anything. I'm gonna try one more attempt here, and if I can't get it, then I think the experiment's over. Obviously, you could keep working on this a bit longer and probably get these bugs figured out pretty quickly. Because what it's generating is pretty amazing, to be honest. I'm gonna just create a new chat. I don't even know if I want to do that. Yeah, let's just create a new chat. I'm gonna say, it looks like you missed implementing some of the combat logic. Try reapplying it again. There could be some issue with maybe the context gets too big and it loses track of the files, because now it's having to go and rescan all the files again. It's doing it basically 100 lines at a time. So it looks like it's going off in a different direction now. Since my question was missing some combat logic, I didn't specify player only. Now I notice in the NPC class, it's creating an is aggressive property. So look like it's implementing NPC or AI combat. So we have the aggro range here. It's basically implementing attacks for NPCs, which is pretty cool. So hopefully we can get this to work. Updated the player code as well. So I'm still missing my apply all button, but it looks like it now has associations to the right files. So maybe doing that new conversation is all I needed to do. There, the apply all button showed up again, accept all. So I have a health now. Let's go find an enemy. See if they'll start attacking me. Still not working. Let's do like a hard restart here. Yeah, no luck. So yeah, I think I'm going to end the experiment here. We could keep debugging through this, but basically I'm going to be dealing with somewhat of a hallucinating AI at this point. I'm not sure where the limitations are, if it's in the size of the context window. I'm sure that's probably it based on the games I've seen on X. This is basically as far as people get. and then they probably have to get in there and start manually editing things. But this is pretty darn cool. We got terrain generation, we got decorations like the bushes, the trees. I don't see any rocks actually. We got NPCs running around with health bars. We have the beginnings of a combat system. We have character movement. And according to the clock on my camera, we did all this in 42 minutes. And a lot of that was me talking earlier. So let's call it a half hour. So vibe coding is definitely a thing. You can build some pretty cool stuff, especially if you want to prototype out ideas. This is a super great way of kind of fleshing out those ideas and playing around with them a bit, seeing if it's going to be a fun game or not. And then if you want to invest more in it, then you can start getting into more of that manual coding and planning out things a bit more. But as far as creating like a production-ready game, just with AI, we're not quite there yet. So I hope you had fun watching this video. I had fun trying out this whole vibe coding thing. And thanks for watching. Take care.